Welcome to Something to Talk About from the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. I'm the director of the Senior Community Center, Reed Price, and with me today is Tressa Johnson, who is the one of the adult service librarians at Kitsap Regional Library, Bainbridge. And we also are very fortunate that she serves on our board. We're grateful for that. And today we're going to be talking about some tips and tricks uh, about being safe and secure. And we've talked about topics like this, but it bears not only repeating, but revisiting because there are other things that we can learn. I want to mention that Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island is the sponsor of Something to Talk About, which we hold a few times a week here. And also, you can always find the conversations online at youtube.com/BI Senior Center. Fieldstone offers assisted and independent living in a vibrant memory care community. They're up on Rolling Bay, and they'd love to give you a tour or tell you about their respite or adult uh, day stay programs. Call 206-594-1010. Go to their website, fieldstonecommunities.com, and arrange a tour today. Also, we would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the ancestral homeland of the Suquamish people, the people of the clear salt water. They have lived on these waters and on these lands since time immemorial, and we are grateful for their hospitality, and we are learning from them about stewardship of our lands and waters. Thank you again, Tressa, for joining us.
Thanks, Reed. Today, I want to talk about 3 topics that are relevant to each of us every day. And those are privacy, avoiding scams, and information literacy. Those are very big topics. And given the current technology environment and the fact that it is constantly changing, these topics are worth, as Reed said, revisiting. It's important that we remain, I believe, in constant conversation about these topics. So I'm breaking them up into smaller pieces so that we can talk about them, keep the conversation going without becoming overwhelmed. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. And, oh, I was practicing. So the first topic is privacy. And this is, and the topic I want to address within privacy is password management. Password management is relevant to our privacy because if we don't do it, we're more likely to use only one password for everything, which puts us at risk, or we'll rely on frequent resets, which is challenging, or we'll make easy passwords. So if the password's easy for us, it will be easy also for an attacker. So how do you manage the huge volume of passwords that today's world demands? And there are a number of strategies one could use. Some of them are digital, some of them are analog. And I think that for most of us, a small notebook dedicated to passwords and usernames will work. Old school, analog, paper. By keeping a notebook, you will be more likely to choose strong passwords. You'll be more likely to choose different passwords for each account, and you'll be lowering the cognitive stress of trying to remember them all at any given time. So there are a few tips that I want to share. You can use a dedicated notebook, something that's only for this purpose. I have been known in my little notebook, I just tape or even glue little pieces of paper into the notebook. If I have to make a username and password on the fly, it seems like we have to do that all the time now. I'll write it in a piece of paper. I don't even bother copying it back down. I just tape it into the book. You could probably get one at Waterfront Thrift at the Senior Community Center.
So I'll just throw this out there that I know somebody who uses an address book so that the websites are arranged by their name. So they know that to look under B for Bank of America or whatever.
Oh, great idea. Great idea. It's not best practice to write things down, but it is a practical option. And if we keep it as safe as we do our wallet, it will be safe. Paper, you can't hack paper. A cyber criminal will not break into your house. So keep it as safe as you do your wallet, and we're good. This is one, trust me, writing legibly is very important. And that includes noting when you use a capital letter, just making sure that, I know I underline my capital letters to remind myself. I write a line through a zero, so I know that that's a zero. You want to make sure that you can come back later. This is not very intuitive. I have found that if I have to reset a password and I write the new password in the notebook, if I don't have a date there, I end up noticing that I have 2 passwords for Amazon, for example. So, but if I write the date, then I know, oh, this was just last month. This is the one that I can use. What do I mean by regularly? It's going to be different for each of us. I do it once a year personally. It just refreshes my memory of what things I have a password for. So there you go. Okay, that was topic number 1, privacy. Now scams. The best way one of the best ways to avoid scams is to talk about them. So I found another short video that I want to share.
A teacher was what I always wanted to be. I got my doctoral degree in early childhood education. My husband and I had a wonderful marriage, and I lost him in September of last year. I got a call from someone who indicated he was from Medicare. They told me that they needed my Social Security number. They needed my bank account number for new Medicare cards. I told them I was not giving them the information and hung up the phone.
There were thousands of consumers affected by this scam. They told consumers that if they didn't provide this information, that they might lose their Medicare benefits, and they implied that that would happen pretty quickly.
They called back and I continued to refuse to give them the information, but they would transfer me to someone else who would give me the same pitch they were giving me. I just wanted them off the phone. I gave them the information they wanted.
These telemarketers are professionals. They know what buttons to push. They know what to say to get people to provide their information. If you receive a call from a government agency, be very skeptical. Government agencies don't call consumers to ask them for money. They don't call consumers to ask for personal information.
I think it is very important that all of us continue to learn about scams.
Because of consumer complaints like the one we received from Dr. Bowers, we were able to go into federal court, get a freeze on the defendant's assets, and shut the company down.
I was so glad to even hear that they did win the case and shut the people down.
Okay, so that
Yeah, I heard her break there before she said people. Shut the blankety blanks down.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw everybody here smile when it happened. Okay.
So there we are. I think it's helpful to hear from folks who have experienced them, and it's a good reminder that these professionals are out there, and that's what they are. They are professionals. So I wanted to share some more information. There was something to talk about. They had an entire episode on fraud prevention. So there is a smaller URL to get you there. And that was Jerry Worley's daughter. She's the president of the board, the center.
Her daughter is works for the FTC.
That's right. That's right. It's a good view. And someone shared this with us last month that AARP has a scams and fraud a page that is very good. There's a lot of information there. And then the importance of reporting fraud if we experience it.
As the woman in the video did.
As the woman in the video did, Dr.
Bowers, I think.
Dr. Bowers. Okay, topic number 3 is information literacy. I think this becomes more important as our politics ramp up this year in the presidential year, but it is important every day. So I found this wonderful quote from the ALA. It's an older quote, but I really liked it, and I think that it is right on. I think it's right on. So I wanted to first review that there's so much jargon out there. Every time I watch the news, there's so much jargon. So I just wanted to review three words. And I wanted to just touch on the difference between misinformation, which is just false, regardless of the intent, and disinformation, where there is the intent to deceive. And the most, was it last night, 2 nights ago, watching the news, I heard the term echo chamber. And I think many of us are in an echo chamber. I mean, we spend time with, we tend to spend time with people who agree with us. And it's important that we recognize that. You know, in the past, the barrier for creating and ingesting information was way lower. There was a time if you wanted to share your opinion with the public, you would write a letter to the newspaper and just hope they would publish it. I mean, there was no other way for a stranger to hear your story. And today, the internet has changed how we communicate. And there are positive points to that. I mean, we can talk across time and space. We can connect across geographical and political boundaries. We can create organizations and communities, find people with similar interests, lift people up when they feel alone. And when information flows that freely, the dangers they're inevitable. And it's a problem across all political ideologies and perspectives. None of us are immune. The challenge is that, well, the fact is that humans are much more easily persuaded by our senses and our suspicions than we are by hard traditional evidence. And so the challenge is that our inner skeptic may speak up mostly when we see information that doesn't align with our pre-existing worldview. And so we think it must be wrong because I already don't believe it. And we can't, in this environment, we can't just wait for our inner skeptic to tap us on the shoulder. And it's not enough to ask ourselves if something seems true or maybe could be true. And unfortunately, there's no simple magical way to only hear information that's correct. So, so in the past, we would ask ourselves this question, but that doesn't work anymore. I think what we need at this point is a change in our mindset, that what we ask instead is, does this information, the first question we ask, does this information challenge what I already believe? And if it doesn't challenge you, then we need to wonder if we're in an echo chamber. We need to ask ourselves, you know, I agree completely. Why? Is it because of where I'm getting the information? If it does challenge us, then the question becomes, why is it challenging me? Is it because the information is wrong, or is it because it's well, as I put it here, inviting me to explore possibly legitimate point of view? And I'm starting here with these questions because it is a mindset change that I am talking about. And without this mindset change, I mean, we can talk about tools that we can use as fact checkers. We can talk about them till, you know, the end of time, and it won't matter, because we need to start from a place of recognizing that the information environment, you know, information is not, it's not black and white. There's a spectrum, and we need to ask ourselves questions about it. So that's where I wanted to start today with, instead of just pointing out some ideas or some fact checking strategies, I wanted to take a step back and just remember that before we do that, we need to think about our mindset and how we're approaching information to begin with. Phew.
May I respond?
Please.
So I follow a woman, I don't know how you pronounce her name, Terry Kanefield, Kanefield, and she writes a blog at TerikaneField, and she recently posted a blog about inventive narratives and the outrage industry. And I know there's a lot of criticism of some folks on cable news, et cetera, for what is derisively called both sidesism. So if you tend to give credence to a speaker who might be speaking off, trying to recognize the potential value of another point of view, it's called both sidesism, because you aren't recognizing that the other people are so outrageous they shouldn't be listened to at all. And she was pointing out that the outrage industry, which is basically what's taken the place of our news delivery systems, our cable news networks and blog posts and all the stuff that comes up on social media, a lot of people are making money off of outrage. And there are people, she says, who know they have enough training. She's certain they know that they're they're narrowly looking at an issue in order to generate outrage, likes, and you get them, and you go George Conway, or whatever it is. And so the recognition that maybe the situation is more nuanced is being ignored. And one of the examples of that, I think, that she gave was all the left-wing coverage about how the Supreme Court should respond to various cases brought before it. And she said, well, actually, you know, there could be arguments made that would favor the side that you're not supporting. And that doesn't mean that they're outlandish. There's a discussion there. So it's hard to recognize or to question an echo chamber, because you so want those people that you hear that you agree with to be right.
Exactly. Which is, you know, just to be in the habit of remembering that we want them to be right, that you know, there is that we need to be asking these questions. We need to recognize that, well, I can't say it better than you, Reed.
Well, we just need to say it over and over again. So
We need
Sheila.
to say it over and over again. Yeah, there are strategies we use. I think one of the first strategies is, you know, who is giving me this information, and is there a reason that they're giving it to me? Like, what is their what is the benefit to them that I have this information? And as you said, the industry of the outrage industry, they're earning money, and that's you know, but in order to kind of get to that question, we have to recognize that there is an echo chamber, recognize that information isn't necessarily just good or bad. I mean, it's a very complex issue. Yeah.
You know, for me, I tend, of course, I tend towards MSNBC, of course, you know, whatever. But I do watch Fox. I do watch Newsmax. I do. It pretty much depends on who's on the particular program, and I find it really quite interesting to see what is being said on all of the different places. To me personally, and I remember Shepard Smith, who used to be on Fox News. He got kicked out of there. And went on to CNBC, and he's now no longer with them either. I don't know why, but he's not. He was the most even though he's on Fox News, he's the most even discussion level I've ever seen in my life with a reporter. And he did not do any opinionation, you know, none, no opinion. He just was straightforward. This is the news. This is what's going on. Even when he was interviewing somebody, it was straightforward, and it was a delightful experience. Of course, as I say, he's no longer doing that for one reason or another, and I'm not sure why. But for me, if I can get on to Fox every once in a while, depending again upon which one it is that I get onto, there's some that I can't stand, but whatever. You know, I can compare, you know.
Well, and I think that a part of this mindset is recognizing that, you know, everything that we do is within the context of our worldview. So you, as a journalist, you can conduct an interview and not provide information and not provide any opinion, but the questions that you have designed are coming from, they're not neutral. They're coming from the journalist's experience and their worldview and their desire to have a good interview, to get many people to watch. So it's definitely, it's a big thing. And I think just recognizing that this is an issue for everybody, for all of us. None of us are immune.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
and I'm
also for
guessing,
the powers that be too, you know, on the different organizations for the different program, television systems, broadcast systems. I mean, it depends on what they want to be put out there. And boy, I can tell it's perfectly obvious where that comes from. What happens with that is the words are the same. You can go at 3 o'clock in the morning, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or whatever, the same terminology, same words.
yeah. But the other thing to recognize is a lot of those programs are people talking about the news. They're not actually telling you the news.
Exactly.
And, you know, I'm thinking that based on what Terry was writing in her blog, you know, a lot fewer people probably watched Shepard Smith because it wasn't nearly as riveting as something that they put in his place. So there's a reason it's on TV, and it's not because we like just the facts, ma'am.
That's right. That is right. So those are the 3 topics for today. I'm purposefully wanting to keep it a little bit shorter so that we can, again, maintain the conversation, make it bite-sized so that we continue to talk about each of these topics, how they impact us, the different ways that they can show themselves. I did want to share these resources that are on the screen. Some of these URLs that we saw earlier in the program, something to talk about, the specific FTC fraud prevention program, and also to remind us all about tech support at the center. You can get one-on-one help. The tech tutoring is done by some teenagers through Bainbridge Youth Services, and they are phenomenal. One of the things that has really impressed me over I think it's been 2 or 3, even 3 years that I've been working with this program, is the realization that these teens know how to problem solve. They know how to learn, and it's just wonderful to watch. So if you haven't taken advantage of this service, it really is a wonderful service.
Thank you. And if you'll send me this list, I'll put it in the description below our video here so that people can just click and get to the locations.